Are you being lied to about snail mucin? Brace yourself, because we're revealing the truth that beauty gurus won't tell you. Snail mucin is fantastic for your skin. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. What happens to the snails? We can guarantee you one thing. The answer will surprise you. So let's get to it. Are beauty companies murdering millions of poor innocent little snails just so you can look a few years younger? Well, it turns out the answer is complicated. And to understand it, we need to look at exactly what snail mucin actually is. This is where it gets interesting. You see, snails naturally produce mucin to protect their bodies from cuts and scrapes. It keeps their skin hydrated and helps to heal wounds. And those same healing properties also works wonders on human skin. Snail mucin is chock full of things you'd normally find in expensive skin creams: copper peptides, elastin, hyaluronic acid, and much more, reducing wrinkles and inflammation. Now, here's the plot twist. Snails actually produce higher quality mucin if they're not stressed or harmed. So those ancient Greeks who used to crush the snails to extract the snail mucin, that was a bad idea all around. Now picture this. You're a skincare scientist, and your job is to figure out a way of getting the stuff into a skincare product without harming the snails. It sounds like a trick question. But fortunately, modern cruelty-free beauty brands have figured out a genius solution. Spoiler alert, it's weird. And it's actually insanely awesome. Here's why. A cruelty-free snail farm is kind of like a spa for snails. Our slimy friends live in an environment that mimics their natural habitat. And as they move around, they crawl over soft mesh nets, which allows their mucin to fall through the nets before being collected below. It's like picking apples that have naturally fallen from the tree, and the snails are none the wiser. Yep, they're living their best life. Now, it's true that some beauty brands aren't as forward-thinking. Not all brands adhere to the cruelty-free standards, so you have to be careful where you buy from. So how can you tell them apart? Thankfully, it's easy. Just look for a label on the brand's packaging that says cruelty-free. That's how you know the product is as kind to the snails as it is to your skin. If the packaging doesn't say it's cruelty-free, that silence speaks louder than words. So is that all there is to it? Not at all. We might have answered the main question, but wait, you don't want to miss the next part. Because there's way more to cruelty-free skincare than meets the eye. And the only way that you can be sure that you're really having a positive impact is to arm yourself with that knowledge. So, we asked ethical beauty experts for their thoughts on the snail mucin debate. Here are the 5 things they said. 5. The dark side of mucin harvesting. Trigger warning. Don't watch this part unless you can stomach some pretty unpleasant details. There's a good reason why shopping cruelty-free is so important with snail mucin. Because with the less ethical harvesting methods, things can get pretty ugly. Snails produce more mucin when they're stressed. Some brands unfortunately take advantage of this by poking the snails, putting them in stressful situations, or even pouring salt on them to get them to produce as much mucin as possible. You already know that snails produce lower quality mucin when they're stressed, so this isn't just horribly cruel to the snails, but also impacts the quality of the products themselves to try and maximize profit. In a market flooded with choices, your decisions can drive real change. Choosing brands that prioritize animal welfare sends a powerful message about what we expect from beauty companies. And the sooner everyone does that, the sooner the less ethical brands will have to clean up their act. Remember, look for cruelty-free certifications or brands that openly discuss their harvesting methods. It's like being a detective in a skincare mystery. You have to look for clues that lead to ethical practices. 4. Snail mucin is approved by dermatologists. Now it's time for some good news. Because as it turns out, snail mucin has a big stamp of approval from dermatologists. First up is Dr. Lily Telekub, a renowned dermatologist known for exploring cutting-edge skincare trends. Her verdict on snail mucin? Thumbs up. And with the science to support it. She approves of snail mucin due to its hydrating and healing powers, especially as it contains hyaluronic acid and peptides. Next up, we have Dr. Angela Lamb, director of a dermatology practice in New York City. Dr. Lamb sings snail mucin's praises as an anti-aging powerhouse. Just like Dr. Telekub, she nods to the beauty benefits of the hyaluronic acid, peptides, and glycolic acid. Meanwhile, Australia-based Dr. Shalimar Guntherson, director of her own dermatology clinic, is equally impressed with snail mucin. She seems amused by the way it's taken off online, but speaks highly of it as a moisturizer, especially for those with dry skin. So the snail mucin verdict? Guilty of being fabulous for your skin. It's no longer just K-pop stars who are obsessed with it. It has Dermatologist approved stamped all over it too. 3. Each brand makes their own rules. Here's where we run into some controversy. There is no universal standard for collecting snail mucin. What does this mean in practice? Well, to put it simply, unlike larger animals like chickens and cows, which are protected by animal welfare laws, the owners of snail farms can make their own rules. As we've seen, some go the extra mile to be cruelty-free, while others cut corners to maximize profits. This makes it doubly important to select brands which are transparent and cruelty-free. Fortunately, ethical methods are becoming much more common. In the 21st century, more brands understand that customers care not just about the quality of their products, but where they come from. Our purchasing power is a vote for the kind of world we want to see. So the next time you're shopping for mucin products, remember, with no official rules in place, it's up to each of us to be vigilant and informed about the brands we choose to support. Our top recommendation? We found this Korean brand on BuzzFeed. They have a ton of awesome snail mucin products, and their website literally has a whole section about how they look after their snails. The link is in the description. 2. Is snail mucin halal? Now, here's an interesting ethical question. If you're a halal consumer, can you still use snail mucin? The answer is, well, it's kind of a gray area. Islamic scholars disagree on whether snail mucin is halal, and both sides make some very good points. On one hand, some argue that because snails are not mentioned as being forbidden in the Quran or Hadith, their mucin should be considered halal. Islamic law considers some animals to be innately impure, and snails are not among them. On the other hand, others argue that because snails are often classed as creeping creatures, they may fall under the broader category of animals that shouldn't be eaten in Islam. Some scholars say that since snails are not traditionally eaten in most Islamic cultures, snail mucin should also be avoided in skincare products. There's also the question of how the snail mucin is harvested. If the snails are harmed or killed in the process, most Islamic scholars would consider the mucin to be haram or forbidden, as Islam generally prohibits causing unnecessary harm to animals. So, to sum things up, the answer is complicated. It's up to individual Muslims to decide what feels right for them. 1. The brand's values are what count. This is a big one, folks. When it comes to choosing a skincare brand, it's not just about what's in the bottle. It's about the bigger picture, the values and philosophy behind the label. Sure, we all want products that work wonders for our skin, but what about the impact they have on the world around us? That's where a brand's ethos comes in. Take the example from this video, Snail Mucin, a company that goes the extra mile to source it ethically and cruelty-free. That says a lot about their principles. Chances are, they bring that same integrity to everything they do, from packaging to partnerships. But a brand that's shady about their snail slime? That's a red flag. And if they're cutting corners there, who knows what other sketchy stuff they might be up to? So before you slap on that serum, do some digging. Peek behind the curtain and see what a brand stands for. By backing brands that share your values, you're making a stand for what matters. So there you have it. It turns out you can enjoy all the benefits of snail mucin without a guilty conscience. It all comes down to doing your own research and finding a product that's as kind to the snails as it is to your skin.